Good morning, I'm Adam Sexton. Here we are just about a week out from Election Day in New Hampshire. The premier race in the Granite State is the contest for governor, and we have the major party candidates joining us this morning. First up, the former Manchester Mayor, Joyce Craig. Mayor Craig, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Adam.
So a lot of New Hampshire voters, as we were just talking about, are infamous ticket splitters. They like to hop over back and forth with that pencil going down the ballot. So what is your closing argument to those independent-leaning Trump voters to do that, to mark Trump and then Craig? What would you tell them?
So I have been focusing on issues that matter most to residents across our state. Tackling this housing crisis, decreasing costs, strengthening our public schools, and increasing job opportunities in our state. These are things that I have done as mayor of Manchester and know how to get done throughout our state. You know, as I'm talking to families, I'm hearing about their increase of costs. And if we don't build more housing, we will not be able to support our children and our seniors and our hardworking families here in the state of New Hampshire. It's absolutely critical that we have a governor who has been on the front lines, has the hands-on experience of tackling these issues, not someone like Kelly Ayotte who has profited off of these issues like she has.
Let's talk about the issue of abortion, one of those big contrasts in this race. There are several blue states that have what are called fetal viability laws, which means that a fetus cannot be aborted electively after they could survive outside the womb. Of course, if you can repeal the 24-week ban here in New Hampshire, would you ever be open to a viability law in the state?
Adam, I am focused on ensuring that women have the right to choose, that they have the authority to do with their body that they need to do. They work with their doctor. Those are the people that need to make the decision. Politicians have no right in making a decision that has to do with a woman and her doctor, and that's what I will support. And I think it's really important to note that my opponent has spent her career attacking reproductive freedom. She has voted for a national abortion ban. She has voted to defund Planned Parenthood, and instead, if she is elected governor, she would continue to defund Planned Parenthood. She shepherded Neil Gorsuch through the Supreme Court process and celebrated when Roe v. Wade was overturned, and that is wrong. I trust women to make their own health care decisions, and that's what we need as a governor in New Hampshire.
Just to be clear, are you okay with the idea of an elective abortion of a viable fetus?
So my point is that I trust women to make their own health care decisions, and that's what I will support, making sure women can do with their bodies what they and their doctors feel is right.
You've talked about this trust issue a lot, and you say Kelly Ayotte can't be trusted on the issue of abortion. I want to read you a quote. I'm a little bit of an odd man out in my party. I do not view abortion as a choice and a right. That is Joe Biden from 2006 in Texas Monthly. He was changing his position on abortion as recently as 2019. Can we not trust Joe Biden on abortion?
So again, I'm focused on the race at hand and the race for governor. And Kelly Ayotte's actions have shown us that she does not support a woman making the decision on health care, her own decision. She's voted for national abortion bans, Adam. She's voted to defund Planned Parenthood, and she celebrated when Roe v. Wade was overturned. We know women and families in New Hampshire believe strongly that they should have the authority to make their own health care decisions, and that's what I support. Her actions speak louder than her words.
This last week, New Hampshire House Democratic leader Matt Wilhelm was at an event, and he said there's incredible synergy up and down the ballot for Democrats. You're all on the same page. Now, your party's nominee for Hillsborough County Attorney is someone who is defending an individual charged with a brutal rape in Manchester. It happened in the cemetery in 2021. Repeatedly raped a woman at knife point. Kim Kosick fought all the way to the Supreme Court to try to make sure that this individual was simply not classified as a sexually violent predator. Everyone's entitled to a vigorous defense. The question is, do you believe this is the kind of attorney who should be administering justice in Hillsborough County?
Adam, to your point, everyone has the right to a civil defense, and Kim Kosick is doing her job. And I believe that the county attorney has to be someone who represents our county and is always doing what's right. And that's what I would look for in our county attorney.
Now, she's trying to get this rape case dismissed just because her opponent is talking about it. So what do you think she's going to do to those charges if she gets elected? You're going to vote for that?
No, I think what she's trying to do is say that the current county attorney is doing something wrong on his website. And that's where the argument is in terms of going against someone who's running for office. Again, we have to have a county attorney who understands what's happening in our jurisdiction, making sure that they are doing right, having the resources in place, having the staff in place to make sure we're prosecuting as should happen.
So this is a progressive prosecutor for Hillsborough County, and you support her?
I do support her. I do.
Even if
yes.
she eventually drops
So,
the charges
Adam,
against this individual.
I think what you're getting into is something that is absolutely wrong. She's representing someone as she should from a constitutional perspective and doing her job for her client. And we're talking about politicians running for office, and she's doing her job as she should be.
But if the charges are dismissed,
It
you're
has
okay with
nothing
that?
to do with her running for office.
Okay. The interest and dividends tax. This has been a big issue back and forth. You've now said that you're open to a threshold for this. Can you talk about what that means and where you might set it if you can bring that tax back?
Absolutely. So again, this has been in place in New Hampshire for over 100 years. And right now, I am focused on decreasing costs for our hardworking families in New Hampshire. And I don't agree with massive tax breaks for millionaires like my opponent. And I would look to increase the threshold to the top 1% of our state. I think that's appropriate. Again, the most wealthy shouldn't be getting a tax break when our hardworking families will see the increase in their property taxes.
One of the big concerns for good government watchdogs is the idea of industry capture of agencies. Now, if Governor Sununu were to appoint a oil or gas industry executive to lead the State Department of Energy, some would argue that would be a big scandal. Now, you have a green energy plan. If you're in charge of the State Department of Energy, are you just going to let the folks who run the solar and green energy industry kind of run that department?
So what I'll do is make sure we're doing everything we can, again, to decrease costs within the state of New Hampshire. And renewable energy is a tremendous opportunity for us to do so. You know, I was at an industry this week focused on renewable energy, and there's a lot of red tape in the state that we really need to do away with. In Kingston, they're looking to build a solar array on their capped landfill like we did in Manchester, but it's going to take 2 years to get through the permitting process in the state, and that's wrong. So I'm going to be focused on doing what's right for Granite Staters, make sure we're decreasing costs and investing in renewable energy. Absolutely.
But will those industries have the say, I guess, in how this department is run?
So we'll be bringing everyone together, focused again on decreasing costs and making sure we're cutting the red tape and investing in renewable energy, because we know that when we can do more with solar. And what's really encouraging to me is this is a bipartisan issue in the State House. We had Democrats and Republicans agreeing that we can do more with solar. We should be looking into offshore wind. But these proposals stopped at the governor's office. I am open to them, again, making sure we're decreasing costs, making sure we're promoting renewable energy and preserving this beautiful state that we live in and love.
There are parents in this state who don't want their high school age daughters competing against trans girl athletes, and we've seen games forfeited recently over these concerns, whether they be political or safety related. Now, do you think these young women, if they have concerns, are doing the right thing by not playing?
So I have 3 children, 2 daughters, who participated in sports in high schools and never had an issue. I trust our experts, the NHIAA, to set the rules, and feel strongly that we shouldn't be putting forward divisive policies, blanket, one-size-fits-all divisive policies that prohibit people from playing sports. I want to encourage our children to participate in sports and teamwork and make sure we're providing supports for every child in the state of New Hampshire.
If there's a young woman out there who is uncomfortable with sharing a bathroom or a locker room with a fellow kid who she's known her whole life as a boy but now identifies as a girl, how do you explain to her that she's wrong?
You know, I don't think you can say that she's wrong. A person feels the way that they feel because they do. But what we have to do is make sure that there's a safe place for everyone in our schools. And we've done that. And there are safe places. There are bathrooms for individuals if they don't feel that they should be in a certain area.
You know, when you were on this program at the beginning of the race, you said it's time to end the Education Freedom Account program. No questions asked, it's going to go. And without concern for, students who might be in the program, again, the majority of them were already in private schools, but there are some who made the switch from public to private. Recently in a debate, you said you're open to sunsetting that program. Where do you stand now on this?
Yeah, no, I think that, we would consider sunsetting the program, but it is absolutely something that I don't agree with. At a time when our state is not adequately funding our public schools, schools, and we've seen lawsuit after lawsuit stating that fact. I feel strongly that any student, no matter where they live in New Hampshire, should have access to quality public education, and that's not happening. That's where my focus will be. You know, I'm a proud graduate of Manchester Public Schools. I have a daughter who is now teaching in Manchester Public Schools, and got involved in public service when I first ran for school board, and as mayor served on the school board in Manchester for 6 years as the chairman. And so public education is very important to me, and I know that quality public schools lead to thriving communities and create opportunities for our kids and their futures. And as governor, I will do everything that I can to support and fund our public schools.
One last question for you. Looking at the national level, we've had a lot of tumult in this presidential race and a lot of late headlines coming in. One that drew my eye was that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, decorated Marine Corps general, recently said he feels that Donald Trump meets the definition of a fascist. Do you agree with General Kelly?
You know, Donald Trump has said a lot of things and that I don't agree with, and he is not fit to be president, in my opinion. I support Kamala Harris and Governor Walz, and am working to make sure we're doing everything that we can to get them elected. They represent the ideals and values that I share. Again, strengthening our public schools, supporting our local communities, good paying jobs, addressing this housing crisis, and I fully support them.
All right, Mayor Craig, thanks for joining us on Close Up. We'll see you back here in a few days for debate.
Thank you, Adam.
Appreciate it. And we'll be right back with the Republican nominee, Kelly Ayotte. Stay with us.